Brendan O'Neill's article in the Spectator today deftly critiques what he perceives as the Guardian's reluctance to directly condemn Hamas militants involved in the October the 7th attacks. O'Neill suggests that the paper's criticism of a new documentary about the event, One Day in October, illustrates a broader trend of excessive liberal moral relativism. And he underscores how the Guardian, through Stuart Jeffrey's review, implies that the film unfairly portrays Gazans as a generalized menace, effectively sanitizing Hamas's violent acts by contextualizing them, and in so doing, potentially diminishing the gravity of the crimes. O'Neill's stance is that it is indeed possible to acknowledge moral complexities without excusing or downplaying acts of violence. I agree. He argues that while empathy for Palestinians as a people is crucial, I agree, this doesn't necessitate empathy for Hamas, a group with an explicitly anti-Semitic and violent ideology. By evoking the Guardian's treatment of Hamas as an oppressed group worthy of pity, he condemns this as an absurd abdication of moral clarity. And from that point, he's quite right. But the tone of exonerating Netanyahu's position is not the alternative. It isn't about either this or that, as if you've carefully created two paper tigers. It's about recognizing not that there are two sides to the same coin, not that there are, not that it's a sort of quid pro quo thing, but that there is an absolute right and there is an absolute wrong, and that each question in the confrontation needs to be judged separately. Does Israel have a right to self-defense? Absolutely. Has Hamas committed an atrocity? Absolutely. Does Hamas continue to commit atrocities? Absolutely. Has Netanyahu committed an atrocity? Absolutely. And it's the fact that Netanyahu has compromised the clear division between good and evil that makes this so complex as an issue. Ultimately, O'Neill argues that such relativistic framing as emerges in the pages of The Guardian not only dilutes the very real threat posed by Hamas, but also undermines the necessary distinction between the evils of Hamas and the complexities of Israel's political leadership, including Netanyahu. This, he suggests, betrays an erosion of the moral backbone needed to confront and reject such violence unequivocally. It's an interesting. It's an interesting series of issues. Fighting evil requires an ability, first of all, to identify what is the evil. And in fighting evil, one has to be very careful not to take that on and accommodate it oneself. And the idea that no one side has a monopoly on good or bad is not true. This sort of relativism is not true. And ultimately, defeating evil requires simply a vision of the good, whether we achieve it or not. And focusing on the evil is not to look for the good. And that's very simple. I think Netanyahu and the Israeli government is too focused on the evil of Hamas and not focused enough on the goods that can be achieved. And those goods are about a peaceful coexistence. I don't think Israel is focused on that. In fact, I think Israel is trying its very best not to focus on that.